Hi, and welcome to the Functional Perspective on Group Decision Making. Here's where we're going. We're going to discuss the four functions of effective decision making, prioritizing the four functions, the role of communication in fulfilling the functions, thoughtful advice for those who knew they were right, ethical reflection, Habermas's Discourse ethics, the critique is Rationality overrated. Functional perspective on group decision making. Hirokawa and Gouran argue that group interaction has positive effect on final decisions. The functional perspective describes and predicts task group performance when four communication functions are fulfilled. These requisite functions are requirements for group outcomes. The first is the analysis of the problem, determining the nature, extent, and causes of the problem facing the group. The second is goal setting, establishing criteria by which to judge proposed solutions. The third is identification of alternatives, generation of options to sufficiently solve the problem. The fourth and final function for effective decision making is evaluation of positive and negative characteristics, testing the relative merits of each option against the criteria previously selected. So here's the novel green group schedule. Take a second, pause, and review this diagram in the context of the discussion in the book. Prioritizing the four functions. All four functions need to be accomplished to maximize the probability of a high quality decision. No single function is inherently more central. It usually takes a common decision-making path. Hirokawa later stated that evaluation of negative consequences to alternative solutions is the most crucial part to ensure quality decisions. Hirokawa later stated that evaluation of negative consequences to alternative solutions is the most crucial to ensure quality decisions. This is the diagram for an effective decision-making path from a functional perspective. From problem analysis to goal setting and identification of alternatives to the evaluation of positives and negatives leading to a high-quality decision. Take a second and think of a group decision that you've made recently that took this path, or could have taken this path. The role of communication in fulfilling the functions. Discussion among group members has significant effect on quality of decisions. Hirokawa believes that communication plays a more active role in quality decisions. Communication and decision-making groups. There are three types of decision-making groups. In a promotive group, interaction moves the group along the goal path by calling attention to one of the four requisite decision-making functions. In a disruptive group, interaction diverts, retards, or frustrates group members' abilities to achieve the four task functions. In a counteractive group, interaction is used by members to get the group back on track. Hirokawa made repeated efforts to develop a conversational coding system. The functional utterance is an uninterrupted statement of a single member that appears to perform a specific function. The FOICS, or Functional Oriented Interaction Coding System, is a tool to record and classify the function of utterances during a group's discussion. Take a second and review the Function-Oriented Interaction Coding System checklist. Think about how you would apply this to groups that you're working with now or that you've worked with in the past. Pause and reflect. Thoughtful advice for those who know they are right. Dewey's process of reflective thinking is thinking that favors a rational consideration over intuitive hunches or press from those with clout. In Dewey's reflective thinking model, we recognize symptoms of illness, diagnose the cause of the ailment, establish criteria for wellness, consider possible remedies, test to determine which solutions will work, and implement or prescribe the best solution. Ethical reflection. Habermas's Discourse ethics. Habermas's ethical approach seeks after-the-fact discussion of what we did in a particular situation and why we decided to do it. Discourse ethics are ideal speech situations in which diverse participants could rationally reach a consensus on universal ethical standards. The ideal speech situation, according to Habermas, is discourse on ethical accountability in which discussants represent all who are or will be affected by the decision. It's pursued in the spirit of seeking the common good and where all are committed to finding universal standards. The validity of any ethical approach is reached to the extent that three requirements are met. Requirement for access, requirement for argument, and requirement for justification. Critique. Is rationality overrated? There are three theories of small group communication to be considered in the context of the functional perspective. Borman's symbolic convergence theory, Poole's adaptive structuration theory, and Hirokawa and Gouran's functional perspective theory. Hirokawa's exclusive focus on rational talk may yield mixed results. Critique. Is rationality overrated? Stoll and Holmes argue that real-life groups have prior decision-making history. Embedded within a larger function. The need to add a historical function and an institutional function. Gouran suggests a functional perspective is not relevant in every situation. So where have we been? We discussed four functions for effective decision-making. We discussed the prioritizing of the four functions, the role of communication in fulfilling the functions, thoughtful advice for those who knew they were right, ethical reflection. We discussed Habermas's discourse ethics, and we discussed the critique. Is rationality overrated?